Should be streaming on Facebook, YouTube, at dailychaos.news, the place to watch this show and to comment and whatever. And hey, please share it. Periscope, I don't know, Twitter or something, all over the place streaming. So coming up in 5.5 minutes time, hey, share the thing. If you're watching an archive version, you might want to fast forward a wee bit. All over the place. Streaming. So coming up in 5.5 minutes time, share the thing. If you're watching an archive version, you might want to fast forward.
Living in the same routine, like the seasons I'm on repeat. It's a long way down. Living in the same routine, trying not to follow suit. Don't like the color, I'll change the shade of it. I'm not afraid of it. I know I'm holding on to this.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, I've done something with my sound and it's coming out of two places.
Holding on to
There you go. That's alright. Oh,
holding on. Don't let me repeat it.
now,
Holding on.
right, yeah. Oh, it's coming out of the browser.
Don't let me repeat it. Fast forward a year or two, friends have changed, but so can you. So can you. For too long about the mistakes, while I resent, I learned to hate. Forgot your names. Fear the struggle to follow on. Need to focus to prove you're wrong. I'm not wrong. I know I'm holding on to this. Holding on. I know I'm holding on to this. Holding on. Don't let me repeat it. Don't let me repeat it.
Two minutes, people. Yeah. Blimey. God. He's a bit depressive, that bloke, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Struth. That's my cue. That's definitely a cue. Right. Let's do this. Yeah. Oh, blimey. Right. That's it. Hey, folks. Good evening, good people, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Daily Chaos. And yeah, it is chaos. I've got no idea if the audio is even working. Something cocked up tonight, this evening. I don't know. Yeah, we'll work it out. Yeah, Ordo ab, ruddy chao. Know what I mean? I'm Olly Connelly. Thanks for turning up. Going out on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. Barely through my sound card by the sounds of things. Hold on. Right, that should be a bit better. And now, join the dots. Historian Daniel Bullen is here tonight. Written a few books about political history. Gonna help us look at the past to consider what's going on right now and with the future. And it's been one of those days. It's definitely Monday. Definitely Monday! What price? A desk producer. Good evening, welcome. Daniel, can you hear me? Daniel Bullen.
Yes, I can.
Well, I hope other people can hear us too.
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much indeed. You, I know, have written a few books about the latest one about fascism and communism and the history of these two, I suppose, political ideologies. I don't know whether that's the correct word. Maybe you'd care to correct that. But you say there's not actually that much between the two. Are you suggesting that you basically go around one way far enough or around the other way far enough and you meet up at the same thing, or?
Yeah, what I'm suggesting is the entire spectrum. There's no left-right paradigm. It's just there to divide us, really. Like, you consider Brexit as one example. You had left-wing leavers and right-wing leavers as well. We're all for different reasons. We all had that one cause in common of leave. Same with those who voted to remain. You had right-wing Remainers and left-wing Remainers all the same. So there is no left-right paradigm. Even though the mainstream media tried to paint leavers as all right-wing and all Remainers as left-wing, when clearly not the case.
They do, absolutely. Let me just point out that Daniel doesn't have his video on tonight, out of personal choice, and fair play to that. Yeah, quite right. So, for example, in the Labour Party, as of old, there were many people that would have been Brexiteers today. For example, the late, great Peter Shaw, no?
Yep, Tony Benn, Hugh Gaitskell.
Yeah.
Michael Foot, famously, longest suicide note in history, wanted to leave the European community, even though we know what happened in 1983. He got hammered because he wasn't that popular, very popular. Even though Labour since then changed their position. Yeah.
Because he wasn't pretty enough. I mean, politics really has been condescended by a media which is basically very shallow, no?
Yeah. Whereas they always consider looks rather than ideas. It's ideas that I want. We could debate all day about ideas, whether we agree or disagree with them. But I want to hear ideas. I don't care about how someone looks. Ideas is my thing. But that is just me. If more people thought ideas rather than looks, the world might be a different place. Churchill didn't win the war by his looks. He won it by his ideas and his determination to actually want to not surrender, not give in, when all the other European leaders at the time caved in or were tempted to cave in. Churchill refused to do that. And there was that idea. Without that idea, that who knows what the world would be like. Tyranny under, say, fascism or communism. They're both tyrannies. And the state still owns everything, no matter which two ideologies you pick. The state still owns everything. You're not entitled to free speech. Ethnic minorities get persecuted anyway, no matter which regime you put it. There's Ceausescu in Romania, who persecuted an ethnic Hungarian, and he was a Stalinist. In fact, made Stalin look right-wing. Got Todashevkov in Bulgaria, persecuting Bulgaria's Muslim population, ethnic Turkish population.
Now,
So there's that
Daniel,
historical context as well.
I want to ask you, I want to study with you. I want you to teach me, please, some of this, what the history of these isms mean for where we are now. But before we do that, let me ask you a question which is very contemporary. Because I get confused personally, I have to say. It seems to me that what we have, now correct me, I want you to correct me here, or applaud me, is a system, a situation whereby faux Marxism is being used by the political class pretty much across the board in the Western world to excuse the reality of politics that we see globally, which is this globalist fascism. Let me repeat that. So I'm saying, and what I tend to say is that we're seeing a faux Marxism, an excuse, a lie, a disingenuity, which is actually shielding the truth, which is globalist fascism. How would you appraise or correct that, please?
You've actually hit the nail on the head. It all leads to globalism. Whereas fascism historically is one of those that aims to have a quick, rapid transformation using the military to establish world government. Whereas communism is more incremental. It's more easing you in, getting you used to it, introducing to it, like what the European Union did to Britain, getting us used to the idea of giving away all our sovereignty, giving away our fisheries, giving away our lawmaking abilities, just each and every bit getting given away, not just through the 1972 Act, which was passed through Parliament in 1972. There's also the Maastricht Treaty in 1992. And then you also had before that, you got the Single European Act, which then got the ball rolling to the single market.
Mm-hmm.
And then that got the ball rolling to the Nice Treaty, Lisbon, etc. And they're still planning on that super state regardless of what happens. And they're still pushing for it, despite what we've heard of, they don't want any more power, when they did. Doesn't matter how we would have voted, if it was remain or leave, they would have just pushed for that agenda anyway. Even though
and this
you are
isn't just
getting
about
some pushback.
This isn't just about Europe, is it? This is
No.
Is the EU or the EEC as was, or the Cold Board originally, is that not an excuse, as I think admitted by Jacques Delors now, to take us into global government, which is now what, for example, the UN is calling for quite openly?
Oh yes, absolutely. And don't forget, the European Union was actually supposed to be one of the core. The European Union, the North America Union, which is a union of the US, Mexico, and Canada, and then the Asia Union, which is no doubt Chinese controlled, and all those three together would have formed the big blocks of world government. which is why you had TTIP, the US and Europe, and the TPP, unlike the TPP with the US and the Pacific Rim countries. That would have connected all the chains to one world government. That was the idea. But then you had the pushback against TTIP in Europe. One of the first things Trump did in America was to get rid of the TPP and said, no, not having it. And threw that in the bin, basically. So some of it is being unraveled. And a lot of what I know, you will not hear on the mainstream media. Like, you don't even hear anything about the Yellow Vests. No word about the Yellow Vests.
Hardly any. Yeah.
No word.
Absolutely. What is your opinion on the mainstream media and their part in this political process? And actually, I would say conspiracy, really. But please, again, correct me.
You've hit the nail on the head again, because the media, like, take the BBC. Why do you think there's now a campaign to actually see it defunded, gone? Because the BBC, and I've seen it, with their bias against Brexit. I document a chapter in 3 of my out of my 5 books on Brexit, where the BBC are blatantly biased. No matter how many times we complain, the BBC just stick their middle finger up at us and say, "No, we don't care." And not only that, I document in chapters of my books what the BBC won't report in relation to Brexit. They didn't report about hundreds of thousands of new jobs coming into Britain from the referendum prior to lockdown. They didn't report about the Yellow Vests. And they haven't reported about the German Constitutional Court actually overriding the European Court of Justice for the first time in its history. Which I'm going to have to, if my memory's not serving me well at the moment, and this is my first time being interviewed.
It's all right.
So things are happening when we don't hear it, which is the essence of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I'm very, very annoyed with the BBC myself. I used to work for the BBC, actually. And I do know what a bunch of corrupt tossers they are, because I think they saw me as a bit of a maverick, and who actually just wanted to ask questions and get answers without any conditioning beforehand, just honest questions, honest answers. Oh, no, didn't like the idea of that at all. No, wanted me to become a manager rather than a content producer, in the hope that I could be bought. And that's pretty much the way the BBC works, I'm afraid. It didn't work out with them and me. But it's not just the BBC, is it? It's the entirety of the media, and increasingly now also social media. Facebook is, I would say, just as dangerous, as bad as the BBC, more so. And Twitter equally. And YouTube is getting that way, although you still can watch some pretty fascinating content which hasn't been taken down yet. But these networks are becoming incredibly Orwellian as well. Do you see any hope for the media in terms of us being able to be informed and to hopefully be able to learn the same things about our political history and where we are now, as presumably you were able to understand, for example, the history of communism and fascism?
Yeah, with the censorship, I'm not surprised that they're still gunning on the censorship, because they want to get rid of anybody who questions the official narrative. Because we're tuning off the BBC, ITV, Sky, or if you want to go to stateside, CNN, MSNBC. People are tuning off those mainstream media outlets, and to a certain extent, Fox. Don't forget, the Cooking Channel is more popular than CNN. The Hallmark Channel is more popular than CNN, which says it all, really. If the Food Channel's more popular, that should be worrying for them. But it seems like they just can't see it.
But we
It's like
we desperately need good news.
Not necessarily just good news, but just report the facts
Well,
as they
balanced,
are.
true
That's
news,
all you need.
as opposed to propaganda, is what I mean.
Yeah, and I think the more we see the globalists losing, the crazier they're going to get. It's like a lot of the globalist plans are failing, hence, which is why I'm beginning to think, and don't forget, China is actually the role model system that the New World Order wants to emulate on the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I suspect the globalists ordered China to release the bio COVID-19 to keep us locked down, weaken our immune systems, and have Bill Gates come in and force a vaccine on us, pretending he's this righteous man who wants to help us when he doesn't.
Okay, let me ask you, let me pick up on that. Why is it, please, that you say that you feel that China is the, if you like, model of control that the elites wish to govern this world by, as opposed to, for example, a more democratic system?
Because in a democratic system, they can't compete. It's as simple as that. They cannot compete. They need the authoritarian system
where
to
is
survive.
where is the evidence that you've concluded from that this is what is required? What the likes, for example, as I understand it, of the UN, that they want to impose this China model of control upon us, as opposed to, for example, a more of a system such as in the EU, which up to now, whilst not being democratic, such as the election of their presidents, on the other hand, and legislative process, on the other hand, is considerably less draconian than the China model. Why do you say that the China model is the one that they wish to impose?
Because the China model is the end result that they want. The EU is just a way than a means. That's
How do you
more
know
of
that?
you're on the way there. Well, look at China. All you gotta do is look at our social media like Facebook. A lot of them like Facebook, Twitter. The reason why they're engaging in the censorship, and same with Google, because a lot of them make money in China. And these tech giants, they know how. I think they have a fear that the Communist Party of China could punish them very severely if they allow stuff like people like us to be able to publish what we want uncensored. They're worried that the Chinese Communist Party can punish them severely. And the reason why I come up with the Chinese model, because that is the ultimate aim by and large. All the EU is, it's more of a window shop and say, oh, look, it's all really nice. You're going to get all these benefits. You're going to get all these nice things. And here's the icing on the cake. You can travel the world. When you go underneath the cake, it's just poison. That's how communism, or that's how communists always sell their idea. Oh, you get all this guaranteed employment. You get everything free. When in reality, you don't. And I think that's the type of system they're trying to push for. Well, if you submit to us, you get free stuff. If you don't submit to us, you won't get the basics. And part of the globalists, I'm not surprised that they're trying to bring in a social credit score, like what the Chinese have. That's all. And what you also see with the New World Order is a Chinese-style cultural revolution, tearing down the statues. They say they want to tear them down slave owners, when they don't really. They're not going to stop the slave owners. They're going to go after every figure in British history. Some people are saying, oh, we can put them in a museum. They're not even going to do that. They want to get rid of all history. They come from that anti-history position because they think by getting rid of the past, we won't know about it. We won't want to support our country. That is what it's all about.
Okay, I'm going to take a few comments. Before I do, people, I want to say that today, for the first time, we're testing the new chat contraption thing, widget, at dailychaos.news. So look, do us a favour, get over there, dailychaos.news/show, and help us test that thing out, because I want to know if it works and what have you. We've got Hornblower over that moment, and that's it. Everyone else is on Facebook and YouTube. And you know what? These networks hate us. They hate us. So do us a favour and get over to a gaff that actually gives a damn. And that's dailychaos.news. There you go. Nag over. I'm going to take some comments from YouTube now. I'm not taking any from Facebook because I cannot stand Facebook. Right, rant over. But yeah, because I am just so I am in a constant shadow ban, Daniel. Over at Facebook, I am on a constant shadow ban, having done about 300 shows about Brexit, Daily Brexit. This is my 101st Daily Chaos, by the way, people. So about 400 shows or whatever. And a community on Facebook with the old Daily Brexit / Daily Chaos page of about 11,500 people, of which bugger all get notified about any post that's put out. So, you know, that's the kind of place that Facebook is, yeah. You subscribe to something that you're interested in, and, you know, Zuckerzitz or Clegg Knob or whatever his name, they decide whether or not they like what you want to watch. If you want to subscribe to that, that's fine, but I'm not going to read your comments. You can now go to dailychaos.news and you can log in with your Facebook credentials if you want to, and you can comment there, and I will read your comments. But I am going to read comments from YouTube tonight because they haven't annoyed me quite as much as Facebook, but that doubtless will change as things go on. Right, Kenneth Noel Gabriel Curran says, Newsgroup International News, gotcha! 1982, the sinking of the Belgrano, the Sun, yeah, their headline. How's Mrs. Murdoch the 6th? The narrative supplement, page 3, etc. Gold, oil, drugs, sex, gods. Thanks, Kenneth. That makes a lot of sense. I got no idea what you're getting at there. Amanda Rolfson, I was reading how the WHO wanted the Chinese to lead the one world government. The World Health Organization, it certainly sounds like it. Do please take mental notes, Daniel. We can come back to any of these comments. The Downliner says True News was recently banned on YouTube for interviewing a Jewish person who was saying why they always use anti-Semitism to silence dissent. Yes, look at the Labour Party. Absolutely. Libel, Germany doesn't have a constitution. They have a foundation or basic law. That was done after World War II because of Germany getting divided into East and West. A constitution in West Germany would have meant that West Germany is fully recognizing an irreversible division of the country, and a reunification would never have been able to happen as it has. The foundation basic law was never turned into a constitution of the reunified Germany, probably because it would have made Germany far too powerful. William Davis says, sorry, late listening to fab music. Great mixing, matey. Yeah, and it was all copyright free. Right. Yeah, Daniel. So if you want to comment on any of that, please do. But I've got a question for you now. How close are we, in your opinion, to the precipice of tyranny?
Oh, I think we are very, very close. We're almost there. And I think the only way we're really going to get out of it is if people like me, people like you, just keep hammering what we know and really getting that information out there, get more people to watch it. And what we're going to do, everybody that we know, I would urge your listeners to do this, everyone we know, get everybody that your listeners know to stop watching mainstream media altogether. Just
Get off
stop
Facebook.
watching it.
Get on dailychaos.news. Know what I mean? Go on, please.
Yeah.
Carry on. Carry on, Daniel.
Stop watching the BBC. Stop watching ITV, Channel 4,
Yeah.
Channel 5, Sky News. Stop
Mm.
watching the lot.
Mm.
They do not help you make informed decisions. They never help me make informed decisions.
Mm.
They only, as you put it, only tips their toe into a story and expect us to go by based on what they dip their toe in. Dipping their toe in the water. I like to dive. Get into the bottom of the ocean. That's where we want to be.
Yeah.
But the mainstream media, they only dip their toes in, pretend it's no big deal. So I would urge you, stop watching mainstream media. They do not inform. You need to be watching alternatives, like Daily Chaos, or The Duran, or Dr. Turley, or Mike Adams, Alex Jones, Owen Schroyer, Paul Joseph Watson, to name a few. Many examples. You don't have to agree with them, but you should listen to them and hear their side. And then if you watch them, ask yourself, why is it that these people are being censored? Is it because they're asking questions that the mainstream doesn't want asked? That's the one question we all need to be asking ourselves. Why don't they want us asking questions? If you do want to watch mainstream media, ask questions. What are they not telling you? What are they not telling us? And that would be my summation. Although, even I'm starting to learn. One example is, I know we all heard of the story of Ghislaine Maxwell just been arrested by the FBI because she's basically...
Who's she? Sorry. Was she on Big
Ghislaine
Brother?
Maxwell? Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Maxwell's daughter.
I know.
For those who don't know about the Maxwells, I'll introduce Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was a Czech-born British media tycoon who was actually a Labour MP from 1964 to 1970.
Damn, go on.
Then he started to run a media empire and had his own publishing firm, Pergamon Publishing. He tried to emulate Rupert Murdoch, who was starting out, but then his emulation of Murdoch didn't work. So then his media empire started to fall apart, and the only way he could keep it solvent, and some of you may remember this, is actually nick all the pension from the pension pots to keep his companies financially afloat. Maxwell is also known to write a type of book called hagiographies, and a hagiography is basically you write a biography about a person, but only the good things, making them look like the best things since sliced bread. And I've read parts of a hagiography about Todor Zhivkov of communist Bulgaria.
Right.
Basically, Robert Maxwell painting Zhivkov as the best thing since sliced bread, when, from my research on Zhivkov, and being a communist, he bankrupted Bulgaria 3 times. The first time, the way he resolved that bankruptcy was actually to sell all the gold to the USSR. And what Zhivkov was trying to get out of it was to actually join the USSR as the 16th Republic. He tried to do that twice. Both times the Soviet Union said no to Bulgaria being the 16th Republic in the USSR, because Bulgaria was the closest ally to the Soviet Union. And when Robert Maxwell would fit into it, he would go and talk to a lot of these Eastern Bloc leaders and make them look like the best thing since sliced bread. And then, I'll skip to the 90s. We know when Robert Maxwell was falling apart, a lot of people started wanting money back. He then mysteriously basically killed himself on a boat near the Canary Islands. And then when he died, this is where Ghislaine comes in, where she felt that because of the loss of her dad, she needed somebody to lean on. And Prince Andrew happened to be that person to lean on, and having that longevity of relationship. And then other people that she connected to, as we know, Jeffrey Epstein, And Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had a connection with another person, former President Bill Clinton, as well.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton's, you might think Bill Clinton, I never had sex with that woman, Bill Clinton. But Bill Clinton did a lot more than just that. Some cases, rape. I can name you some of the people. Kathleen Willey, Jennifer Flowers, Paula Jones, Joyner Broderick, Aileen Wellstone, Christy Zurcher, Becky Brown, Liz Ward Grace, and Karen Muffet. The list goes on and on and on. 20 plus
This is
women.
the point where I would generally have to, cut in and say allegedly. But you know what? In this case, I don't think I need to. Let me just quickly read a few stories. What's going on? A bit of an update with Ghislaine Maxwell, because we may as well bring this conversation in now at this point, because this is pretty important in terms of where we're going, and maybe our only hope. I want to ask your opinion about that, Daniel. Let me just go through a few stories, a few updates for folks that haven't seen what's going on with this Ghislaine Maxwell, Madame for Jeffrey Epstein's sex slave empire or whatever. According to the New York Post, she has been transferred to a New York City lockup ahead of a court date. Jeffrey Epstein confidant Ghislaine Maxwell has been transferred to a New York, Hampshire jail to a federal lockup in New York City. The accused madam, who was arrested last week for allegedly helping procure underage girls for Epstein to sexually abuse, was moved from the Merrimack County House of Corrections to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. U.S. Bureau of Prisons officials confirmed. On Sunday, prosecutors asked a Manhattan federal judge to set her arraignment in Manhattan court for Friday. Meanwhile, the Sun is just saying what a lot of other people are thinking. She knows too much. Epstein victim's lawyer warns Ghislaine Maxwell may kill herself or be silenced to stop her spilling secrets on pals. No great surprise there. Humansarefree.com is reporting an interesting side to this story I thought I'd bring in. Ex-Reddit CEO Ellen Powell admits we knew about Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking underage girls. Former Reddit CEO Ellen Powell admitted in a tweet, we knew about Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking underage girls, but attended a party where Maxwell was present anyway. Powell, a former partner at venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins, said Maxwell was at the firm's holiday party in 2011, more than 2 years after Epstein was first convicted of soliciting sex from a 14-year-old, reports Business Insider. Maxwell was at the Kleiner holiday party in 2011, but I had no desire to meet her, much less have a photo taken with her, Powell tweeted last night. We knew about her supplying underage girls for sex, but I guess that was fine with the cool people who managed the tightly controlled guest list. Where is the morality of these people? Reddit, another one. By the way, China owned these days, yeah. Another one, Reddit, that is censoring people, telling people you can't do that group because it supports Donald Trump, for example. Oh, yeah, that happened a couple of weeks ago. The Donald was shut down, one of their subreddits or whatever. And they, on the other hand, are perfectly happy to have slave traders, their parties, and know it. Anyway, incredible. Just one other story before I bring Daniel in to discuss some of these points and what this means for democracy, or what it might mean for draining the swamp, perhaps. According to News Punch, lawyer for Epstein victims says Ghislaine Maxwell may kill herself or be silenced in jail. Pretty much what the Sun said. A lawyer for several Jeffrey Epstein victims has predicted that Ghislaine Jizzy, whatever, Maxwell will either kill herself or be silenced in jail. Attorney Spencer Cuvin, said, I think she knows way too much information. I have this gut feeling I just don't think she's going to get out of jail alive. And I want to just read a bit of what they're saying on medium.com because I think that they sum it up pretty well. So let me read this. This is going to be a couple of minutes, people. But Ghislaine's last stand, according to medium.com. If Epstein's accomplice tells all, will the fallout be too much, even for the US government? The sensational arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell, alleged madam for sex fiend Jeffrey Epstein, is the end game in the Justice Department's pursuit of co-conspirators in the case of the convicted paedophile. I think there's a big question mark off the back of that paragraph, personally. But anyway, unless, of course, Ghislaine, the daughter of disgraced British media tycoon Robert Maxwell, chooses to sing like a bird. Yeah, okay. The Southern District of New York, the notoriously tough prosecutorial body who oversaw the Epstein investigation and his death, is known for prosecuting cases they think are unimpeachable if they were ever to go to trial. That means they likely have testimony from dozens of witnesses that place Ghislaine firmly up the proverbial creek without a paddle. Thus, it's a big if it goes to trial. Most crooks whom the SDNY indict end up taking a plea deal, knowing that if their case were to be played out before a jury, they would almost certainly suffer a harsher sentence than if they were to admit wrongdoing. So, as the British socialite sits behind bars without bail at Merrimack County Jail in New Hampshire, well, she's been moved today, as we've heard, she is no doubt mulling just what to do next about the 6-count indictment that alleged she groomed. Well, we know all this. We know what the allegations are by now. Ghislaine, of course, has denied she did anything wrong. She will also know the situation could not be more serious. If she were to be convicted of all these charges, it's doubtful she would ever leave prison again, and her options are limited. First, Ghislaine could accept a plea bargain, if offered, pleading guilty to certain charges in exchange for concessions from the prosecution. These concessions could include an agreement to seek a lower sentence or to convict her only of a lesser crime than the one with which she was originally charged. I would have thought crimes plural, but anyway. Regardless, freedom for the socialite would invariably still be a long time coming. Second, Ghislaine could choose to fight the indictment in court. To most defense attorneys, this would seem like a foolish move. If convicted, the 58-year-old faces 35 years in prison, according to medium.com, almost certainly what's left of her life. What's more, the evidence against her seems to be compelling and overwhelming, proving not only she was a madam, but she also was an utterly depraved paedophile. No, hebephile, actually, I think is the correct word. They also don't have a dictionary, apparently, but nonetheless, maybe a pedophile too. Maybe. We don't know that yet. I believe we will learn the SDNY afforded other alleged co-conspirators who could have been considered of less interest to prosecutors various forms of immunity if they agreed to turn federal witness against Ghislaine before the grand jury that rendered the indictment. That's how cases against targets like this are assembled, like a series of building blocks. From the threat of prosecution comes cooperation from witnesses or subjects of the investigation. That block gets added to the stack of assembled evidence, leads law enforcement officials to new evidence, and edges them closer to proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the main target is guilty of a crime. Ghislaine's major error was excessive hubris and a failure to understand just how determined the South District, New York, SDNY, was in this case. A source close to Ghislaine has told that reporter there that she believed she'd never be charged because the plea deal Epstein took in 2007 included non-prosecution provisions for himself and his co-conspirators, and presumably Prince Andrew. That agreement included unusual language. The others was never identified or named, leading many to suspect that the deal covered up a larger sex trafficking operation. After Epstein's dramatic arrest on the tarmac of the whatever airport, on July the 6th last year, Ghislaine asked her lawyers for the 411. They believed and continue to believe there was no legal basis to invalidate Epstein's non-prosecution agreement that then Miami U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta agreed to. In recent months, Ghislaine also sought the counsel of Alan Dershowitz, accused by Virginia Roberts, a former lawyer for Epstein, who believed the deal was secure and would maintain her freedom. A source told that reporter there, who's very bloody wordy, but got some good points nonetheless. Of course, the SDNY doesn't believe that to be valid. It challenged that very notion with Epstein's arrest on federal charges for the sex trafficking of minors in Florida and New York. So, just as they did with Epstein, prosecutors will argue that the 2008 deal only applied to the specific U.S. Attorney's Office in Florida that made the agreement. Not all 94 federal prosecutors' offices in the country. If the court agrees, that could open the floodgates to a number of cases being re-litigated in other jurisdictions. The United States is a series of states, which is why Trump has, for example, not just been saying, right, we're going to stamp out all of these looting and riots, for example. It's state-by-state type of a thing, as we've learned, I guess. As a matter of law, put simply, whether that plea deal it was and is still binding, this ultimately has not yet been tested in court, as Epstein was found dead in his cell before he could come to trial, after apparently killing himself last August, although I think a post-mortem suggested strangulation, no? In Maxwell's indictment, the New York prosecutors appeared to build in an insurance policy, deliberately charging her with crimes occurring in the 1990s, a time... Hold on a second. Let me just... Anything else worth... Yeah, he goes on about saying she should have skipped the country, but like Roman Polanski did, but didn't. Surely if Ghislaine believed she was facing criminal exposure, she should have used all her means, including her French citizenship and more than 15 bank accounts. Yeah, okay. So she decided she was immortal or whatever, and she wasn't. And I'm just bored of reading this. It's way too bored. He does actually come up with some more great points. Look, okay, Daniel, the bottom line, is that it looks as though this is going to play out, assuming that she's not suicided or suicides herself or arkancided or whatever. Assuming that, is this the key to Trump's draining the swamp? Or actually, might she bring him down as well as God knows what?
I think it's a start of draining the swamp, because since Trump got in, the pedophile rings have been busted up left, right, and centre, which is the bottom line. That's why a lot of these elites are worried. That's why a lot of these elites want to bring him down, because the elites know they're going to be exposed.
Oh no! Hold on! Oh no! Hold on! Oh, go away! I do apologise. Daniel. Please.
That's okay.
Yes. So you think it could be the start of draining the swamp? Why? Why is Trump immune and the Clintons not, in your opinion, in your estimation?
Well, the difference between Trump and Clinton with Epstein. I'll start with Trump first.
Mm-hmm.
Although Trump didn't know anything about Epstein when they first met, when Trump found out that Epstein was doing the things he was doing to young children, that's when Trump booted Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago and all his properties, reporting them to the authorities, and then actually helped the FBI to investigate against Epstein. Whereas with Epstein and Clinton, you can actually check Bill Clinton. You can actually check the flight logs. It's stuff which will say Bill Clinton's name on the Lolita Express about over 10 times.
26
with underage girls. Pardon?
26 times.
Yeah, 26. Okay. Wow, 26. There's actually Sean Hannity actually dubbed it Orgy Island.
Or Pedo Island.
So, yeah, Pedo Island, another one. And this is the same Ghislaine Maxwell who gave, I think, something about $2,300 on the 30th of March 2007 to Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign.
Good Lord.
Which says it all as well.
Yeah.
So you'd be surprised. It's all there. So you can say Epstein and Bill Clinton
I do agree with
you.
I mean, Trump does seem to have been an associate, and who knows? Maybe they even, pulled some girls together at the same time, sort of thing. But in terms of the depravity, there's no suggestion really that he was into the kind of stuff that Epstein was apparently into. When you look at the temple on his island, and when you consider Pizzagate and the implications of that to the Clintons that hung out on that island, apparently both of them, not just Bill, it does appear to be a slightly different ball game between the two presidents. But in terms of this incarceration leading to a true draining of the swamp. Now, I mean, for example, I understand that the judge that's been put in charge of this, I can't remember her name offhand, but she is an Obama appointee who is very woke. And woke, it seems to me, is code for a moron, stroke depraved, stroke bored, as opposed to being a decent human being. Frankly, if you reckon you're woke, I'm sorry. If you're awake, oh good, that's fine. She seems to be a woke judge. That doesn't bode well.
It doesn't, and I actually, to be honest, I actually didn't know that bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, there's so much I'm learning now. I'm going to be continuing to learn all this.
Yeah.
What I usually try to do is research a little bit before coming up with my opinion.
Yeah, no, sure, fair enough. Alison Nathan is the judge apparently. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, looks a bit Obama-esque to me, frankly. You can look at the top of my Twitter profile to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Right, so I mean, the fact is that the deep state is like a cornered tiger. I just wonder if Trump really now, in what, effectively 4 months, 4 months really left to make an impact. Actually only 3 or just 3 and a bit before the polls are open for the November election. Is it going to be too little too late?
That's something I don't know. I think with Trump, a lot of the accomplishments that he's actually done, most of it you will not hear in the mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
And now, such as black unemployment is at its lowest level in 50 years, prison reforms, actually, whereas I'll take you to the beginning with criminal justice. Under Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton brought in a law where if a black commits the same crime as a white, blacks will get twice the sentencing. And that was under Bill Clinton who started that.
Really?
Under Trump, Trump got rid of that.
Huh.
And Trump's obsessed with helping black people in particular. Really obsessed with getting jobs into those areas. And Trump has proven that.
What was that bill called that Clinton brought in?
I can't remember the bill.
But he brought in a bill which meant that if you're black, you get twice the sentence than if you're white.
that's what I've heard, and I've yet to read into that. And the reason why I bring it up because I want to know if your viewers knew that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to assume that your viewers are just as smart as I am.
Well, it depends. Depends which ones.
And you're a smart guy too.
And you're saying that Donald Trump got rid of that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you one. Bill Clinton was the president that introduced 3 strikes and you're out. 3 strikes and you're out. Now that law, so this is going back to what, 92, something like that? And that law basically meant that if you were caught by a cop in South Central, for example, smoking a spliff 3 times on the corner, felon, a felony offence, 3 strikes and you get a felony. That's 20 years. 20 years. 3 strikes. 3 strikes. 3 lots of smoking a spliff, or maybe one of them was, I don't know, shouting at a police officer, or maybe not, but getting charged for shouting at a police officer, or maybe one was, I don't know, you punched somebody. 3 things like that, and you got put inside under a felony offence. Bill Clinton brought that in, and off the back of that, Starbucks, for example, did very, very well getting everybody to make their coffee cups for them. But the US penal system is essentially institutionalized slavery, you know, and it has been brought in, exacerbated extraordinarily by Bill Clinton. Where's the media talking about that?
They're not. Can you imagine what would happen if Trump was doing that?
Yeah.
It would be a storm for about 2 months.
That's right. If not 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can just imagine. They'd be calling him to be removed.
Yeah. No, it is incredible. Right. So why have they got it in for Trump? What is it about Trump that is so detestable and deplorable?
One, because he actually believes in national sovereignty. One of the things he wants to do, in foreign policy wise, he actually wanted to improve relations between the US and with Russia. Whereas the establishment in the Democrats, particularly Hillary Clinton, she wanted to go to war with Russia. She wanted to go to war with them. Which sounds like...
She did. She wanted a no-fly zone over Syria, didn't she?
Yeah.
That would have resulted in bringing down a Russian aircraft and then a potential World War III with Russia, i.e. with China.
Yeah, and Iran and Hezbollah.
In that debate, when she said that, Trump practically laughed at her and said, "You've got to be nuts. There's no way we're having a no-fly zone over Syria." Sorry, please carry on. But I wanted to make that point because it was to me, it was the biggest disparity between the 2 candidates running up to the last election.
Yeah, Hillary wanted a war with Russia.
Yeah.
And you've got to, and this is historical context coming in. Napoleon couldn't put. Let's think of it this way: they couldn't win in Iraq and Afghanistan. The British Empire, at the height of its power, couldn't even invade Afghanistan. We struggled against the Boers, and that was the British Empire at the height. The Americans couldn't win in Iraq and Afghanistan. Libya is a dog's dinner. And they think they're going to beat the Russians. Napoleon couldn't pull it off. Hitler thought he could launch the biggest invasion force in history. Guess what? Still couldn't do it. In fact, the Russians kicked his troops backsides back to Berlin. So it was a no-brainer for me. I don't know, Hillary was the one who was responsible for destroying Libya by getting rid of Gaddafi. And because she got rid of Gaddafi, that's why you're seeing all the slave markets in Libya now. That's another thing they don't want to talk about. And that's what gets me. If these left-wing movements like Black Lives Matter were really concerned about blacks, they'd be talking about slavery in Libya because of our overthrow of Gaddafi. I'm not saying Gaddafi was perfect, but under him, Libya became the richest country in Africa. He was actually spending his country's money in building up an infrastructure in Africa the globalists didn't control. And what Gaddafi wanted to do was bring in a gold dinar currency, which would have basically freed Africa from the Western financial establishment. And the financial elite didn't want that, and that's why we got rid of him.
Yes. Saddam Hussein wanted to get rid of a central bank, a Rothschild central bank, and therefore...
That was a mass destruction.
Yeah, okay. And similar deal with Libya, no? Was that not the deal with Libya?
Yeah, Libya wanted to actually they publicly confirmed and dismantled their nuclear weapons program. George Bush actually admitted in 2004.
Yes.
Now,
And wanted a gold-backed African currency, which could have really benefited that continent. Huh? Okay, look, you say they don't like the fact that he wants to strengthen, I hope I'm not misrepresenting your words here, sovereignty, Americans' US sovereignty.
Yeah.
Who are they and why?
Who are they? Globalists. They don't want national sovereignty.
Who are these mysterious globalists, in your opinion, please, sir?
The globalists can comprise of, I would say, George Soros, head of the snake, started out as a former Nazi collaborator in World War II. Mm-hmm. He admits that he's happy to see his fellow Jews get deported to the death camps. So George Soros is number one. Another one will be the Rothschilds, because they're the ones that finance these major sides of major wars. World War I, World War II. JP Morgan, globalist. JP Morgan funded the Remain campaign in the EU referendum. The same ones who engineered a financial panic in the United States in 1913, which prompted Woodrow Wilson, the president, to bring in the Federal Reserve.
Yeah,
the same JP Morgan that financed World War I, and the same JP Morgan that financed the Bolshevik Revolution. And I talk about the Bolshevik Revolution in my book, Fascism and Communism, Two Sides of the Same Coin, Part 1, where it was actually the bankers that helped to finance the Bolshevik Revolution. How do you think Lenin was able to get on this sealed train from Switzerland to Russia? The bankers helped fund that travel. That's where the money comes from. And this is what I say. If you want an answer to a question, everybody should know this. Follow the money.
Why is it that you talk about the Bolshevik Revolution having been funded by bankers? And I know that is the case from my understanding of history, unless all the books have lied. Why do these supposed capitalists want to encourage communism?
Because they're afraid that they're going to, because they think that they think they're going to be okay. That's my understanding.
So it's not really communism, is it?
No, I think they're just afraid of being bullied. And they think it's one of the authoritarian regimes, especially like take Nazi Germany. Probably a lot of people would have probably thought, oh, I'm all right. I'm not going to stand up because I'm not a communist, or I'm not going to stand up because I'm not Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to say anything because I'm not this, or I'm not Gypsy, or I'm not Slav. And then before you know it, oh, there's no one left to stand up for me. Where are they all gone?
Yeah. We seem to be getting that way again.
Type of situation.
We seem to be heading into that direction now. I mean, that to me, I didn't stand up because, it wasn't affecting me. It was affecting my neighbour who was, I don't know, homosexual or something, or whatever. It wasn't affecting me, so I didn't stand up. It seems to be doing the same. We seem to be getting there again. This time against white people, middle class people, job creators. What is all this about? Why is this it does appear to be a direct attack on society as a whole to try and destroy society, but it doesn't have any logic unless there really, really are some utter psychotics who run this world from behind the curtain who want to kill us all. Please what is your take on that? Because that sounds very extreme. I know there are lots of theories that would back that up. Agenda 2030 suggests that there is at least a large element of truth in that. What are your thoughts on just how dangerous are the times that we are leading into now, unless we really do correct this very, very damn fast?
I think we're in a dangerous... It's a double-edged sword. We're either in a dangerous or exciting time. Dangerous because of the nature of the far left and the globalists, because the globalists know that they're losing. They've lost, for example, in 20 years, the globalists, the New World Order, they've lost Russia because Putin chucked out the Soros, the Rockefeller, arrested the Rockefeller and Rothschild agents, holding pro-family events, promoting the family as an institution. They've lost Britain with Brexit. Britain is still managing to slip through their fingers. America's slipping through their fingers.
Yeah.
Italy is starting to slip through their fingers. France is starting to slip through their fingers, but you might not know, of course you won't know that watching the BBC. Type of thing. They've lost Brazil, because you've got Jair Bolsonaro. There's so many out there. They've lost Hungary, Orban. So they are losing but you wouldn't think they're losing if you only watch the mainstream media. But we know they are. And I think we got to get, and your viewers need to do this, and I'm still trying to do it, trying to wean people off the likes of the BBC and ITV and get them onto alternative media to get our side. If that makes any sense.
It does. On the other hand, China is the biggest force of the lot, really, no, and they are still very, very, very mighty indeed. How do we handle that? Because surely you can't take down this globalist fascism, ironically, until you take down Chinese communism. It's also surreal, no?
The way to take down Chinese communism, we can do it in ways they're not going to expect. With our wallets. We can buy, for British viewers watching this, don't buy Chinese products. Anything made in China, leave it on the shelf. Buy British. That's what we can do. We can start with our wallets. Because we've got the purchasing power. We've got more power than they think we do. You've got more power than they think. That is what I'm saying.
I just want to read a couple of stories that are pretty relevant to China and our relations with China today. One of which is quite exciting, if I can find it, and I don't know that I can find it actually. But basically, it sounds as though 5G is going to be knocked on the head in terms of Huawei's involvement in the UK. In fact, here we go. There's a bit of a tit for tat going on. According to the Times today or this afternoon, trade between the UK and China could be at risk if the government pulls the plug on Huawei's involvement in the 5G network. China's ambassador has warned. Liu Xiaoming said ejecting Huawei would send a negative message about Britain's openness to business, warning that Chinese businesses were paying careful attention to which way the government goes. They're all watching, he said. There's also an element of trust. How could people trust you? This is coming from the Chinese representative. Sorry to laugh. I do hope the British government will make the decision in the best interest, not only in China's interests, not only in the interests of UK-China cooperation, but also in the interests of the UK itself. You know what? I mean, it seems to me, Daniel, anybody with half a brain knows that the best interest would be to kick China into touch, have nothing to do with that totalitarian concentration camp wielding dictatorial regime. But on the other hand, they are also a superpower capable of grave warmongering danger. How do we play this?
If it was me, if I was in Downing Street, this is what I would be wanting to do. In an ideal world, the first thing I'd be thinking of is, let's see if we can improve relations with the Russians with the aim of trying to get them away from China.
Yeah.
That'd be my first bet.
Hmm.
And then strengthen our relations with the United States. Do what Margaret Thatcher did with when she brought Reagan and Gorbachev together, got the two talking.
Yeah.
That's what Margaret Thatcher actually did.
She did.
Got Reagan and Gorbachev to talk. So I would be trying to do something along those lines. But then pragmatically, I don't think that would be realistic, but I think there are other countries in Asia we can talk to. We can get Japan, we can get South Korea, we can get the Commonwealth in Asia on our side due to culture and history.
Yeah. Australia
Perfect.
too.
So I think...
Okay, but now that makes sense. That sounds good. But, I mean, Putin, he's just had this referendum, hasn't he? That can now keep him in power till 2034, 2035?
36.
36? I hear what you say that Russia has been improved in a way, but on the other hand, I mean, it looks pretty bloody tyrannical there, no?
Yeah, maybe. I get your point. Russia's not perfect. No country's perfect, really. But who would you rather, if you had to pick, shot at gunpoint, who would you rather be friends with? If you had to pick, you're forced at gunpoint, China or Russia? Which one would you pick?
Absolutely, no question.
That's
okay.
the type of thing we're up against.
Let me just while we're on the subject, and be interested to hear your input on this as well. According to RT tonight, and this is a good story. At last, China and India pull troops away, set up buffer zone in Himalayas weeks after bloody border clash. Reports China and India have moved their soldiers away from the site of a deadly June skirmish along the disputed border in the Himalayas. Reports say the news comes a day after senior officials agreed to expedite mutual disengagement. Chinese soldiers have moved their tents and other structures away from the site of the bloody melee in the Galwan River Valley that took place last month, Indian media reported, citing official sources. Indian troops are said to have pulled back as well, and a buffer zone was set up between the soldiers from both sides. Indian military sources told AFP that the disengagement of the Chinese troops began in accordance with the agreement reached during talks between high-ranking army officials from both countries. You know what? I am so pleased, so very chuffed to hear that, Daniel. I thought that was potentially a real concern. And as an aside, another point I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on, where the hell was the media reporting on any of that? I mean, it seemed to me that we were on the brink of World War III in June with what was going on the Indian-Chinese border.
Well, my guess is that mainstream media are not interested. It's almost like they don't care in a way. I don't know why they would. Right. I think they're too busy reporting on glorifying Antifa to think about a potential World War III.
You're right.
I think it's far more important. I think it's far more important to talk about India and China than Antifa. I can remember when I was in Rome. This was at the time Margaret Thatcher just died, and at the same time you had Kim Jong-un saying, "Yeah, come get me," asking for it. I can remember saying, aren't you going to report on more Maggie dying type of thing? I can remember somebody telling me, well, it's more important to talk about North Korea as well, because they can nuke us all. Whereas once Thatcher's dead, she's gone. That's it. Type of thing. So I think it reminds me a little bit of that. But I also think the mainstream media, I don't think they want to be seen as upsetting the Chinese. It's one of those typical, I don't want to be seen as offending people, virtue signaling. That's what I think. Whereas from what I've researched on China, if I was a journalist on the BBC, I would want a Chinese government official on, and I'd ask him this: what did you know about COVID-19, and when did you know it? Because I could tell you, they've had their first case in November, and we found out in January, and they known about since November.
Yeah.
Why would you wait 2 months?
Yes. Do you have any? It doesn't sound like it, but do you have any time whatsoever for the UN? The WHO, of course, is one of their divisions or what have you. Do you have any time for the UN?
No, I think we should just get out. Just get out of the UN. Outright. Really? Because the UN, I don't think, is not working anymore. The fact that we should definitely leave the World Health Organization, because why is it that the head of the World Health Organization would just repeat Chinese state media? Yeah. Why would anybody do that? Can you imagine what would happen if he was repeating American media? The UN, there would be calls to kick America out. Why on earth would you not talk about it? And the head of the WHO was actually a former Ethiopian Communist Party member.
That's right.
Yeah, since the 1970s. I think Ethiopia was actually a socialist dictatorship. And the dictator at the time of Ethiopia was dubbed the Black Stalin. And also had some relations with Bulgaria. But how escapes me. So this is what I mean about. I think that's why we call the show Joining the Dots, because there's so many dots there that the mainstream media would rather rub out the lines.
Yeah. Daniel, thank you so much. Look, I'm going to take a few more comments before my last question to you regarding these idiots on the streets these days, to get your opinions on that. Well, maybe you don't think they're idiots. I do not wish to put words into your mouth. See what folks have got to say. Gerald Collins says Trump appears to be bringing back manufacturing to the US. Keeps talking about made in America. He needs to have a word with Boris. Yeah, damn right. Absolutely. Stop relying on China for crying out loud and build up our industry. Kenneth Noel Gabriel Curran. Karma. British stroke English UK government involvement with opium wars. He's got a good point. Good point, Kenneth. Yes, indeed. That's how the royal family made their money, wasn't it? Mookie Pook, he has Gerald, I've heard, that rerouted the supply chain in 30 days. Yes, he has done a lot to bring industry back to the States, or did have before coronavirus managed to derail the economy. Do you think, I know that it's impossible, this is always going to be speculative, probably forever, Daniel, but do you think that COVID-19 was biowarfare?
Initially, I thought it was just a genuine virus like a SARS-CoV-2. I'm actually thinking it's being used as a weapon, specifically to derail our economies, crush our economies, put America into a depression specifically to take Trump out. And don't forget, the Democrats knew that they were going to fail with the sham impeachment. They knew they were going to fail, so I think they were in the works, thinking, right, we're going to get something out desperately. And then they realized COVID was failing, which is why you get all the race wars with the left on the streets. And with the COVID cases, in Republican states, you got
many questions.
Go
on, sorry, carry on, please.
So, all right, you got in Republican states, the death numbers, I've actually looked at some of the data, are quite low compared to Democrat states. And the reason being because in the Democrat states, you had governor of New York, I think, put old people into nursing homes from the hospitals,
Cuomo.
and every death is linked to, they link it to COVID. Every death. You could die in a car crash, they link it all to COVID, and COVID's actually also, from what I'm reading, you can read that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website, now it's actually they've actually patented it. Patented COVID-19, so they can push their vaccine.
Okay, a couple more questions. A couple more points. You pies burn the demons at the stake. I think that you pies means libel. The next time fascism takes over, it won't call itself fascism. Well, that's actually my point. I think they're calling it Marxism. I really do. Mookie Puck, I think he has been on the sly, Gerald. He's been making trade deals, talking about Trump and maybe bringing stuff back to the States. And I bet there have been things going on behind the scenes that we're not hearing about. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mookie Puck, that nobody's hearing about, and that's him tearing up NAFTA and basically renegotiating entirely with Mexico. There was a little bit in the press about that, but not a lot. And NAFTA, by the way, was another policy that was brought in by Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
The North American Free Trade Agreement. I was reporting in the States when they brought that in. And Trump quite rightly said, "You've got to be joking. It's just taken a load of jobs out of the US to Mexico, where we can't compete salary-wise and all the rest of it. All this, and so he ripped it up, and loads of jobs went back to the Rust Belt. And he's negotiated something with Mexico, and in the same agreement with Canada as well, which is created jobs for the states. Again, no word on that. Kenneth Noel Gabriel Curran, The Adventures of Tintin in Wuhan, and the Coronavirus, circa 1936. Gerald Collins, I sincerely hope so, Mookie. He could be such a great. It could be such a great manufacturing country. Talking about the UK here, Sheffield Steel was the best in the world at one time. Okay, one very brief aside before my final question to you, please, Daniel, because steel actually is a very, very important industry for any country that really gives a damn about its sovereignty. Is it not? Would I not be correct in thinking that had we not had a steel industry in 1939, we would have immediately surrendered to Adolf Hitler?
Oh yeah, you've had a lot in the British establishment that wanted to surrender. Chamberlain, Halifax, they would have just thrown in a towel. That is why you've had, and despite all the failings in World War II, that's why you had a lot of the House of Commons saying, "In the name of God, go." And Chamberlain had to leave. And then Churchill inherited such a mess. That's why we were on the verge of being invaded. Because of the lack of preparations beforehand, spending the time to appease not just Chamberlain, but also Stanley Baldwin as well.
Is there any truth to the theory that is essentially the reason why British industry has been ground into the dust through our requirements off the back of our treaty with the various treaties with the EU as a way to depower Great Britain and the United Kingdom?
Yeah, I would argue that. They did it with fishing. They've done it with most of our manufacturing. And I've actually read a report called the Red House Report, and I document this in my book, The Occupation of Britain. That the Nazis tried to founded the European Union, or found the basis of it. And what they wanted to do as part of that plan was to deindustrialize Britain anyway and turn us into nothing more than a service economy. That was the grand plan. That's why there's a lot. You could even look at a link like Jean-Claude Juncker or Drunker, who's considered heir of the Nazi throne because his father helped the Nazis invade Luxembourg in 1940.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep. And his dad actually served on the Eastern Front as well.
Last question to you, bringing it right back up to date to where we are today. Antifa, BLM, what will their historical legacy be, in your opinion?
Vandalism. Vandalism is the one word I would use to describe them.
Daniel Bullen, God bless you. God bless you, mate. It's really been a real pleasure. And I do hope you'll come back on the show and soon so that we can continue this, because there's so many questions off the back of those few that I'd love to get into with you. How can people hear about your books?
You can buy them on Amazon. That's where you can buy them. I advertise them on Facebook. I advertise them through VK, Parler, Gab. So I'm basically across the board, but you can get them on Amazon. I'm trying to publish ebooks on other platforms as well, because I know some of you are not comfortable buying off Amazon. So that's where you can get my books.
That's right. I've got a double-edged sword with that, because on the one hand I can't stand Amazon, but on the other hand I also am aware that it supports tens of thousands of home-based little tiny businesses. And so actually, whilst it's a, if you like, parasitic, opportunistic company, on the other hand, it creates fantastic opportunity for regular people. And I wrote a book, and that's on Amazon, for example. No?
Ooh. I didn't know you wrote a book.
Oh, it was about tech. It was about internet security, and it's a great cure for insomnia. The most boring tome you ever read in your life. But yes, and it's on Amazon. But the point is, though, Amazon is great for example, self-publishers, or if you make something and then you can sell it on Amazon. No?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent platform myself. And it might give me the chance to show another publisher, look at my track record on sales and reviews.
Well, look, would you please do me a favor and register at dailychaos.news and put in a forum post in the forum section which says guests, please, and link there. Where people can get your books and what have you, and that'd be fantastic. And I look forward very much to you coming back on the show again, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see where this Jizzy Maxwell thing goes, and you know, take it from there, Daniel. Hopefully have a good old laugh, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
God bless you. Right, that's it. That's been Daily Chaos on Monday. The 6th of July. With Daniel Bullen. God bless him. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. And I happen to know, when we spoke earlier, he said, what, this evening? I thought the show was in the morning. He said, I'm useless in the evening. He said, I'm always so tired in the evening. I thought you did the show in the morning. I'm never awake in the evening. But anyway, I'm very grateful indeed. And you know what? I'll tell you, these political historians, they just sound like conspiracy theorists to me. Do you know what I mean? I wonder whether we're just learning or what. Thank you, everybody, for joining in the comments and what have you. Particularly if you bothered to go over to dailychaos.news to help old Jay Carey, yeah, to work out whether or not that chat thing was working. And there are only 3 or 4. Look, you gotta come on, folks. You like this show? Support it by using our site, yeah. Please do us a favour. DailyChaos.news. Go and register. Register. Trying to put together a real compendium of information in that forum, so that hold on. Right, that's better. I had to restart the sound card because we need to work out, look for the truth. Yeah, you're not going to find that. You'll be able to do that at Facebook for sure. Anyway, dailychaos.news. Yeah, there you go. Here's to us. And bugger, plutocracy. See you tomorrow. Boozy, stateside report tomorrow. All right, ciao.